started, and I'm really nervous, so please bear with me. Okay, I have 7 minutes to try and tell you this huge transformation of a life that is finally surrendered to God. My name is Christy. I'm a mother of 3 and the wife of one man, Chris, who I married for the second time, which leads me to the beginning of my own self-destruction. Chris and I were married. We were walking what we thought was a Christian life together. We went to church. We read together. We prayed together. And the Lord allowed the testing of fire. My response revealed that I worship man more than I did God. Infidelity in marriage led me to a 7-year temper tantrum, is what I like to call it. My world collapsed and I chose to run, rebel, and disobey God's instruction. I entered a world of sex, drugs, alcohol, disobedience. The consequences of my choice led to a loss of my marriage, a loss of my freedom, prison, a loss of my children, and essentially separation from God. At one point, I remember I overdosed on drugs, and I was unconscious, and I remember just total darkness. And in that darkness, I remember I couldn't even see like a spot on the wall, and it seemed like it lasted just forever. And I remember hearing an audible voice asking me, "Do you want to spend eternity like this?" And it was, I remember saying no and waking up at that point to my husband and children, but that wasn't enough. That still wasn't enough to call me to repentance or call me to God, just to go back to God. So in desperate times, call for desperate measures, right? I chose to move from Texas to Knoxville. Of course, there was a man involved. Some time passed, and I became so tired of just depending on men, drugs, alcohol. And one night, in a drunken state, I decided to search for a church. And yes, God can reach you. He can reach you right where you are. He'd given me the word Calvary, and it was on my mind. So I punched it in on the GPS, and the next morning, hungover and just a mess, I set out to find this place. I walked into Calvary Chapel, Knoxville. The people the Lord put in my face that day challenged my actual level of commitment to choose God and to obey. God met me face to face and literally gave me a place to go, to leave my life of sin behind. But fear of change drove me back to my life as it was, still steeped in drugs and alcohol. And instead of making changes, I went even further down into the pit. I went on a wild rampage and was just down in the dumps more than I'd been in a long time. I was afraid of what I didn't know, what I didn't understand, and afraid of walking away. But I wasn't afraid. But I was afraid of staying the same, for I knew it meant death. Complete death, not just total separation. I had a life and death choice before me, so I made the call. I called the person the Lord led and made available to come get me. I walked into a new life, totally unknown, with only the clothes on my back, and of course my cell phone. I had a huge habit of always having my phone. In fact, I was told at one point, "Cut it off." Cut it off. Which was very hard for me. It was like my security blanket, my binky. And anyway, it was like jumping off of a cliff. I just had to dive in and just have that faith. What God had in store for me was beyond my comprehension. I knew that if I actually repented, God would restore, renew, and bring me back to life, but I was still so afraid. Everything was fear, flesh, and self-centeredness. I moved into an unknown life with someone the Lord provided, but it was hardcore. Getting in the Word, fellowship, obedience, and essentially just dying to myself. After a couple of months of being clean, sober, and focused, I thought that restoration of my former life should take place now. However, little did I know, true surrender is not giving a list to God of your plans according to your own timeline. One morning in my pity parties, whining and complaining about God, God about missing my children and wanting restoration right now, I was determined to manipulate God into allowing me to go back to Texas to my children. I swore I loved them. I swore I loved God. I love you. Please give me what I want now. But God says, if you will love me, you will obey me. It wasn't time. My roommate asked me, has God given you a specific word today about moving from the place you are now to another? So angry and determined to find that word, I picked up my daily walk Bible. It's kind of funny. And he led me to Numbers 22. I read this story and didn't understand what was going on. I didn't really understand how to hear anymore, that he could actually speak to me through his word. I read the story, didn't understand, so I went to my roommate and I said, what does this mean? And she started laughing hysterically. The story was Balaam and his donkey. Balaam was wanting to go to a place that the Lord had said no to, but he kept insisting and wanting his own way. So he packed up his donkey and set it on the road. While on the road, the donkey stopped and wouldn't go further. So Balaam, in his anger, like me, started to beat his donkey. And all of a sudden, the donkey spoke. The donkey said, why are you beating me and angry at me? The donkey could see death coming to Balaam if he didn't stop, but Balaam didn't know this. I was angry at this roommate for telling me what I didn't want to hear, and what didn't work according to my plans. What I didn't see, like Balaam, was that death and destruction was ahead if I continued to go down my path and to my own plan once again. This was a pivotal moment in my surrender. This now became a personal word and a personal relationship with God, and revealing my true commitment to Him, His ways, and His timing. I saw that God was speaking to me directly for the first time. I had a choice: true surrender, true love, which is dying to yourself and obeying the Lord. From this point, I searched the Word daily to hear the Lord speak to me. I knew this was the beginning, not religion, but a true relationship with God. I saw Him provide the job and the resources necessary to go down the path He wanted me to go down. It was a year later that the Lord allowed me to return to Texas, a woman restored and washed clean. A woman who the Lord gave honor, reputation, and willingness to deny herself for love's sake. Today, the Lord has restored my marriage. I now have my children back, and I have a job which fills my heart's desire and also gives me the opportunity to share my testimony daily. So in that, I just want to say, if there's something that you are holding on to, that you know you need to let go of, just let go of it. He'll give you the heart the desires of your heart according to His will, which is a bigger and better plan than you could ever make for yourself.